15 minutes. That is the shape of your survival. Put the graph on screen now and look at it, because this is the only curve that matters when snow closes over your face. At 15 minutes, if someone pulls you out, you are nearly 9 in 10. Alive. By 35 minutes, that same line has collapsed to barely 3 in 10. 20 minutes. That is all that separates a near-certain rescue from a near-certain death. And nothing about the snow changes in those 20 minutes. The temperature does not drop. The weight does not increase. No new layer crushes you. What changes is the air. And the air changes because of you. This is not a story about cold. This is not a story about crushing force. This is a story about your own breath, turned against you, sealed inside a coffin you build with every exhale. By the end of this, you will understand why the most dangerous thing in an avalanche is not the mountain. It is you, still breathing. Here is the number that reorders everything you assume about what kills you in an avalanche. Roughly 75% of avalanche deaths are asphyxia. Not trauma. Not impact. Not hypothermia. Air. Or more precisely, the failure of air. You imagine being crushed, and sometimes that is true. 1 in 4 victims dies from injuries sustained in the slide itself, the violent tumble through a granular river moving faster than you can run. But 3 in 4 are simply buried, intact, uninjured, and then they stop breathing. They had air. They had enough oxygen around them, and they died anyway. The mountain did not kill them. The cold did not kill them. Their own exhaled breath did. The graph you are looking at is not a temperature curve. It is not a pressure curve. It is a carbon dioxide curve, and it is climbing toward you with every breath you take. It begins with a slab. A dry slab avalanche is not loose snow slipping down a hillside. It is a coherent plate, sometimes the size of a football pitch, fracturing along a weak layer beneath it and descending as a single body before shattering into a granular river. The trigger can be almost nothing, the weight of a single skier, a crack propagating through a snowpack that has been waiting all winter for this exact moment. The fracture line travels faster than sound through the weak layer, and the slope above you simply opens, like a trap door hinging away beneath your feet. You hear a sound that survivors describe not as a roar, but as a crack, a sharp, dry report. And then the surface beneath your skis is no longer attached to the mountain. You are standing on something that is already moving. Within 2 seconds, you are no longer standing at all. The slab that carried your weight has disintegrated, and you are inside a flow that does not care where you intended to go. A dry slab avalanche moves at 80 to well over 100 kilometers per hour. That is highway speed, in a medium you cannot swim against and cannot push away from. You are not riding on top of the snow. The flow tumbles you, captures you, drags you under through a process called turbulent entrainment. Debris fragments the size of fists and forearms collide with you as the current sorts itself by size and density. The heaviest objects, including you, sink toward the base of the flow and are deposited as the avalanche decelerates on the run-out zone. You come to rest wherever the snow decides to stop. On your back, on your face, upside down. The snow settles around you, and then, within seconds, it begins to change. What was a moving fluid becomes something else entirely. You are now buried, and the clock has started. 15 minutes. You will not feel the cold yet. You will feel pressure. You will feel silence. And you will feel your own breath, going nowhere. Here is what the snow does next, and it does it fast. The debris that buried you is not powder. It is a granular flow, fragments of the original slab packed at 30 to 60% density, angular, and interlocked. Within seconds of coming to rest, these grains begin to sinter. Sintering is the process by which ice crystals fuse at their contact points, bonding neighbor to neighbor into a rigid lattice. The snow around your body is transforming from a loose aggregate into something with the working consistency of set concrete. You feel it tighten. You feel the space that existed between grains close, not by compaction from above, but by the crystals growing into each other, knitting the mass into a single, rigid block. Within a minute, the snow around your chest is no longer something you can push through. Within 2 minutes, it is no longer something you can push at all. Your arms are locked wherever they landed. Your fingers cannot reach your face. The debris has sintered into a mold of your body, and you are the void inside it. The average burial depth is about 1 meter. That figure sounds survivable, even generous. 1 meter. You could dig out of 1 meter, but you are not digging out of 1 meter of snow. You are digging out of 1 meter of sintered debris that now behaves like concrete at 30 to 60% density. A person buried under this material cannot generate the force required to expand their own chest against it. The snow does not need to crush you. It merely needs to hold your ribs in place while you try to inhale, and the force your intercostal muscles can produce is not enough. Even if your hands were free, even if you could reach the surface, a rescuer with a shovel faces the same material. 1 meter of sintered avalanche debris takes a trained team several minutes to cut through, and every one of those minutes is a minute on the graph you are looking at. The clock does not pause for physics, it just falls. Now we arrive at the cruelest mechanism, and it is one you are building yourself. The snow around your face is porous. It holds air. Tiny channels between sintered grains allow gas to move, slowly, in and out. For the first minutes, this is why you are alive. There is enough oxygen in the pore space around your mouth to sustain you. The snow is breathing for you, a feeble exchange through a fragile membrane of ice. But your breath is warm, and it is wet. Every exhale pushes 37-degree water vapor into a network of channels that are at 0 or below. The vapor condenses on the snow. It melts the nearest crystals. And then, between breaths, it refreezes. With every exhale, you are laying down a thin layer of ice on the one surface that was letting gas exchange happen. Breath by breath, you are sealing the membrane that is keeping you alive. A smooth, impermeable shell forms against your face. They call it an ice mask. You are building your own coffin lid, and you are building it from the inside. Here is what happens inside that sealed space, minute by minute. You are no longer exchanging gas with the snow around you. The ice mask has closed the last pore. The pocket in front of your face now contains a fixed volume of air, and you are rebreathing it. With every exhale, you add carbon dioxide. With every inhale, you pull that same carbon dioxide back in. The concentration climbs. 5%, 6%, 8%. Your body does not panic when oxygen drops. Your body panics when carbon dioxide rises. That is the signal. The drive to breathe is not driven by oxygen hunger. It is driven by CO2. And the CO2 in your pocket is rising toward thresholds your biology cannot tolerate. Hypercapnia. You feel your chest heave against the sintered snow. You feel your heart rate surge. You feel a deep, primal alarm that demands breath, demands movement, demands escape. And none of those demands can be met. Oxygen is still present in the pocket. There is technically enough to sustain consciousness for several more minutes, but CO2 reaches you first. You lose awareness not because the air ran out, but because your own exhaust filled the only space that was left. Now turn the camera upward to the surface. where the rescue clock runs in parallel and runs slower. Your companions, if you have them, have seconds to react. The first 15 minutes of burial are the window in which companion rescue has any realistic chance of reaching you alive. Every minute after that, the probability shifts to organized rescue, and organized rescue takes time. A team must arrive. They must assemble probes and transceivers and shovels. They must search a debris field that looks, from the surface, like an undifferentiated waste of snow. No hand is visible. No voice reaches the air. The surface is silent and uniform, and somewhere beneath it, a person is breathing into a shrinking pocket. This is why the graph falls. Not because the buried victim runs out of air in the abstract, because the surface cannot find them fast enough, and what is happening beneath the snow is accelerating faster than the rescue above it. Two clocks, running against each other. One in your chest, one on the mountain. And the mountain's clock is slower. The counter tools exist, and they are honest about what they buy you. An Avalanche transceiver is a beacon that transmits and receives a signal on a specific frequency. If you are buried, your beacon is transmitting. Your companions switch to receive and follow the signal's gradient toward your location. It narrows the search from an entire mountainside to a few meters. Then a probe goes in. A collapsible aluminum rod pushed vertically into the debris in a grid pattern until it contacts something softer than snow. Then the shovels. And here is where the clock bites again, because even with a perfect transceiver signal and a confirmed probe strike, the team must cut through sintered debris to reach you. A meter of it. Several minutes. In ideal conditions, with trained rescuers and perfect signal, the extraction can take longer than the 15-minute window. The gear does not guarantee survival. It shifts probability. It buys minutes. And minutes are the only currency this graph accepts. Two more devices attack different parts of the problem. An Avalanche airbag pack works on a principle called the inverse segregation effect, or more simply, the Brazil nut effect. Larger objects in a granular flow rise to the surface. When you deploy an airbag, you increase your effective volume dramatically, and the flow tends to sort you upward rather than downward. Data from real deployments suggests airbag users are significantly less likely to be buried deeply, and less likely to be buried at all. It does not guarantee you stay on top, but it reduces burial depth. And on this graph, depth is destiny. The other device attacks the CO2 problem directly. An AvaLung-style system routes your exhaled breath away from your face through a one-way valve and a tube, dispersing it into the surrounding snow rather than letting it pool in front of your mouth. It delays the ice mask. It extends the window. But it is a mechanical device, buried in concrete, and it depends on you remaining calm enough to breathe through a tube while the graph falls around you. There is one final detail, and it is the one nobody expects. Buried victims routinely have no idea which way is up. The snow that sintered around you took away every orientation cue your body relies on. No gravity signal, no visual horizon, no proprioceptive frame. Your vestibular system, the inner ear apparatus that tells you which way is down, is useless in a uniform medium under pressure. Studies of survivors describe the experience as floating in a void with no direction. Some victims who were found had tried to dig downward, toward the center of the earth, because their confused nervous system told them that was up. The snow does not just bury you, it erases the axis of your body. And so the final cruelty of the avalanche is this. You have air, for a while. You have warmth, for a while. You have gear, if you prepared. But the moment the snow settles, you may not know which direction to dig, even if you could move, even if the snow would let you. The mountain has taken your breath, your mobility, your light, and the last thing it takes is the direction home. You are buried alive, and you do not know which way is up.